So Unit 5 is all about savings accounts. The big difference between a savings account and a checking account is how accessible your money is. You can't go to Walmart and pay with money that's in your savings account. So the idea is you basically leave your money alone when you put it in a savings account. The idea is to save it and not spend it. So a lot of banks will pay you a higher interest rate in a savings account than they will in a checking account if they pay interest on a checking account at all. I know when I opened my first checking account, it didn't pay interest at all. So the only way you could earn interest on your money was to keep it in a savings account. So that's kind of where we're headed with this. Those are the big differences. Depending on how much money you keep in a savings account, your bank may pay you different levels of interest. Basically, one thing that I found here pretty quickly, just looking on the internet, there's different kinds of savings accounts. There's one called a certificate of deposit. Basically, you're promising to leave your money in the bank alone for a while. They pay you a higher interest rate. Most of those types of situations, there's a fee if you pull your money out before the time that you agreed upon. So like if you had an 18-month CD and something happened after a year and you needed your money back, there'd be a fee involved in that. So that's something you guys can research on your own. That's not really the gist of the lesson here. So if you want to read through some of that stuff, feel free to pause it and go ahead. But we're going to get into the meat and potatoes here. The nice thing about this unit, especially after the one that we just completed, is there's a lot of overlap between a checking account and a savings account, namely how you make those deposits. The deposit slips might look a little bit different, but ultimately you're doing the same thing. So today only we're just going to calculate how much are we depositing in our savings account. So if you're familiar with what we did last unit, depositing in a checking account, it's very similar. You basically add up all of the money going into the account, and if you want any cash back or if there's any less cash received, you take that back out. So you're going to add up all the money going in, and then if there's any money that you want back from the account, it's going to get subtracted off. Okay, so Gustavo here, he has a check for $145.58, a check for $47.51, some $1 bills. He wants to deposit all of this and get $20 back in cash. Okay, so we're literally going to add up the $145.58, the check for $47.51. He has 14 $1 bills, so that's just $14. And then at the end, he wants $20 back. Okay, so this is a calculator problem. Really, you're going to go through and add up your stuff. 145.58, the 47.51, the 14 ones, and then subtract off the $20. His grand total deposit is $187.09. Okay, just like in a checking account. Okay, it doesn't change. The deposit slip for a savings account looks very similar, if not identical, to a deposit slip for a savings account. My bank, the account numbers are different, obviously, because one's a saving, one's a checking. I had a bank that I used when I lived up north where the account was the same, and then there was just like a little one-digit extension on the end. It was like number 1 if it was going into checking, number 2 if it was going into savings. So these look exactly the same when it comes to filling these out. You would add up all your currency and go in this line. I don't know why coins are listed separately, but on the checking account, it was all one thing. And then if you have any checks, they would go in here, add it all up for your subtotal. And then if you need to, subtract off for any cash here. Okay, so you're doing the same thing here. You're calculating their grand total deposit. He's got 28 ones, 8 $5 bills, 24 quarters, 35 dimes, 90 pennies, a check, there we go, 29.34, and a check for 124.19, and he wants a $50 bill back. Okay, on your homework, I'm not too worried about filling out this deposit slip because we already jumped through those hoops with the checking account. You should be familiar with how those go. But the question is, how much will he deposit? I got $181.93. Okay, that's the grand total deposit down here at the bottom.